those two guys from work who won't shut up about football, but are pretty damn entertaining? Well, they decided to buy a couple microphones. And with that, we welcome you to the CheesyCorn Sports Podcast, where Justin Adams and Martin Chaney wrangle over everything college football and NFL. Bold predictions, hot takes, and live game reactions. This is CheesyCorn Sports.
All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to this rendition of OnlyFantasy presented by CheesyCorn Sports. I am your host, as usual, Mr. Corn, a.k.a. Justin, a.k.a. the _H-Town Husker on X, if you want to follow me. And that over there is Mobile Cheese. Mobile Cheese. You want to fill the people in on why you're Mobile Cheese today?
Well, yeah, as we can see from my little tag down there, I don't know how to fix my own PC. I was on it yesterday. I was working fine. Turned it on this morning and started giving me some issues. So we're gonna rock on the old cellular device this morning, and we're gonna roll with the vibes as usual.
See where we land.
Yep.
Right. Chaney's winging it today. He's got no notes, no nothing. So
let's do it.
We're gonna see if we can make his head spin a little bit.
Already spinning.
ask your most difficult questions in the chat.
Let's
go,
do
Derek. Appreciate you hopping in here. All righty, let's go ahead and let's get her popping. What do you say?
Let's do it. You're gonna have to lead the way all day today.
Well, first, I got you. First things first. Fantasy playoffs are coming up, so if they're not already here for your leagues, you are fighting for a spot potentially. So this week becomes very, very important. So I got a few things that could help you. Sleeper of the week, we got rankings and stuff like that per usual, and then we'll answer your questions. Anything you may have, call in, do your thing, and let us help you win your championship. So, all right, first things first. Let's go ahead and get into the games here, and we'll go ahead and start out with this barn burner: Tampa Bay at Atlanta. Arthur Smith versus one of the worst defenses probably for fantasy there is, or best, depending on which way you look at it. So I expect Bijan to have a huge game, as do I'm sure you. What is your – I'll just ask you this. Are there any overarching thoughts that you can recall from this game? Any people that you like necessarily? Anybody that you don't like from the Tampa-Atlanta game?
I mean, it at this point in the season, right? There's the weekly, flyers and faders are, they're kind of done, right? This is our very last week of bye weeks.
Yep.
And so you have everyone's kind of finally setting their lineups for the playoffs.
Yep.
And so the key here for me is, we know the efficiency that Bijan Robinson has when he touches the ball. It's going to be a matter of how many times is Arthur Smith going to put the ball in his hands.
Yep.
And that is the real difference between a 10-point day for Bijan, which is around his floor, versus a 20 to 25-point day for Bijan.
Right.
But outside of that, if you have multiple options at tight end, I would consider sitting Kyle Pitts. Tampa, as bad as their defense is, the one thing that they do well is protect against tight ends.
Yep.
And so Kyle Pitts probably sit for me, but everyone else is looking good to go. Rashad White on Tampa side, along with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Those usual three players, really. Mm-hmm. And then on Atlanta, I really like Drake London this week. And then, of course, Bijan. If you're in one of those super deep leagues, you can basically always roll Tyler Algier out there, right, for for some volume. And that's really about it as far as like the fantasy players go on this in this game.
Yeah, I really good matchup on Bijan's side as far as the porous for lack of a better words, Tampa run D and pass D. I have Bijan as my RB2 this week for multiple reasons. Of course, Arthur Smith, all he likes to do is run the ball, and secondly, like I said, this defense is terrible.
Yep.
On the offensive side of the ball for Tampa, my good, I can't think already. Very, very good matchup as far as Mike Evans goes against their secondary. And then he's, just another 1,000-yard season coming up. He's got
already done.
He already at 1,000. I thought he was right there. So he's already another quiet 1,000-yard season. It just seems like clockwork with Mike Evans. Where we come to the season where it's like, we're expecting maybe him to be middling, drop off just a little bit. Maybe he's there. Maybe age is going to, finally catch up to him. Just consistently puts up 1,000-yard seasons, and he's well cemented in my top 10 this week. So I expect a big game from Mike Evans. I think they're going to be playing catch up a lot, and as much catch up as you can play against the Falcons. The Falcons are very sound at they win dirty games, and that's what I've noticed. Is like they like to grind them out. They like to make the game ugly, but so does Tampa in a way.
Yep.
Tampa's one of those teams that they'll take a punch and then they're a little bit they'll catch a little bit in the middle of the game. They'll catch a little bit of stride, and then it's a matter of whether they can find enough stops to kind of stay in the game. But they have been in some games. They took the Texans to the wire. So, but I do expect the Falcons to play with the lead. I expect them to get on their run game. Like you said, I know Ritter last week, he was 12 for 27, 121 yards. Nothing really exciting there. Kyle Pitts was his top target. However, 4 receptions, 51 yards. Take that for what you will. Also, I don't know if there's enough consistency in the offense there to look at trends. Well, this was his top target this week. I think he'll also be his top target next week. Then, like I mentioned, with Evans, 7 receptions, 162 yards, and a touchdown. Rachaad White, Rachaad White's that weird case of, he's not a very good running back. He's not efficient. But like the volume and the pass catching just give him so much of an edge that he's consistently top 15. It's interesting because like Rachaad White, you never see him in really in top 15 rankings a lot. He was always middling around 25, 26, but was consistently putting up points. But the problem is the efficiency. When Buccaneers aren't scoring points, ain't getting touchdowns, he's not scoring points. So
right.
I like Rachaad White. I like Evans. Pitts, it depends on your options for tight end, like you said. But if you have a better option, if you have a Jake Ferguson, if you have, one of those guys, even if you have a guy like I wouldn't say Jawan Johnson. No, I was going to say last week Jawan Johnson was a good pick, but this week I don't know with Derek Carr's injury. But you're going to start him over probably most tight ends unless you're in a desperation spot, because that's the only reason I start Kyle Pitts. So, all right. Anything else on this one before move along?
No, you just interesting note here on Rachaad White, right? Is I don't have his ranking off the top of my head, but he's currently, I believe he's in the top 10 running backs on the season. And of course, at this point in the season, a lot of that can be attributed to injury and game script and stuff like that. But at the same time, I personally have called Rachaad White my start of the week at the running back position multiple times this year. And each time I did so, he has paid off.
Yeah.
He is one of the very few running backs to actually score double digits against tough defenses like the Philadelphia Eagles. There is no game script that is negative to Rachaad White.
Yeah.
It's either he's running the ball and they hardly use any other running back in that offense, or they're playing down and they have to throw the ball, which includes a lot of checkdowns. And Rachaad White has a very, very good receiving skill set.
Yep.
The route tree out of the backfield is very good for him. He has good hands. He's a highly efficient receiver based on the target share that he receives out of that offense.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what makes him special.
Yep. I agree. Agree completely. All right. Moving on, we'll get on into the let me pull the card up. We'll get over to Detroit at Chicago. What's up? Nino Pena. What's up, guys? Start sit Rachaad White and Gibbs for the flex. Start one, sit one. Oh, give me Gibbs.
What's the question?
It says start sit Rachaad White and Gibbs for the flex spot.
Oh man.
I'm going Gibbs.
I just got done talking about Rachaad White.
Yep.
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs. He's playing Chicago this week, right?
No, the Lions are playing Chicago. I'm a dumbass.
Yeah. You can give me Jahmyr Gibbs comfortably against Chicago.
Game too. We're about to break that game down too. So yeah, Gibbs confidently without a doubt. He's in both of our top 10s.
Yeah.
God White, I don't believe it is. So appreciate the question, man. All right. Let's get into that game. Why don't we? So
let's do it.
A few points here. This game just turned into oddly a Bears fantasy point gold mine, in my opinion.
Yep.
Because I think I have Justin Fields as my QB 8 this week, and I feel like
I think I have him in there somewhere. I don't
there's
know.
not going to be a lot of quarterbacks that finish better than him this week, in my opinion, because he's been playing well. His rushing upside is crazy. He's in a plus matchups against this Detroit defense that really hasn't been playing well. You know, they've who did they play last? The Saints,
New Orleans. And they gave up like 28 to them.
Yep, exactly. And the Bears defense has been playing well, you know, lately. You know, much maligned. You know, I think they had given up 6. They were the second highest total in QB1 weeks given up defensively at 6, and they're starting to tighten up there. It's been interesting. It's like the Broncos, you know, kind of went from the worst team to, you know, maybe not a laughingstock. It seems like the Bears are late taking that same trajectory, but Jared Goff, you definitely want to fire up Jared Goff, you know, depending, but he's probably going to be a top 10 QB this week. He's had 230 yards in all but 2 games. He's 3,200. I think he's like 20 touchdowns and interceptions, 3,200 yards. You know, he's doing the thing. Jared Goff is quietly killing it. Detroit, you know, their run game, very good run game. Of course, fantasy wise, it's a headache because it's a Detroit backfield. Go figure. Speaking of, saw a stat yesterday that Jamal Williams has 0 touchdowns, and like his longest run of the season is 11 yards. After he had 17 last year.
And it's pretty crazy, you know, that looking back to the start of the year, Jamal Williams was getting drafted like 7th, 8th round of redrafts leagues. And and then you had guys like Adam Thielen going undrafted or in the last round. So
and just to see him, you know, I kind of like Jamal Williams. It was just kind of annoying last year, but
sure,
it's kind of one of those things you love to see, you know.
Yep.
And Derek, no, I still have Purdy ahead. Yeah,
Seattle. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, we'll get into that one though. But yeah, stick with it as is for now. I have not changed that one. Okay, and that's also why I put David Montgomery canceled on my thing, because last week vulture to Gibbs touchdown away. I was playing against David Montgomery. It was brutal. I was super upset. But I digress. Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's it. That's all you need to know. He's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yep.
I think the Lions offense has scored 30 in like what? 3 of the last 4, something like that.
Something like that.
Yep. But they're giving up, at least 28 points in 3 of the last 4 weeks as well. 362 yards last week. It's just absolutely brutal. So the Bears, DJ Moore, looking at the on PFF, I looked at the cornerback wide receiver matchups. Top 5, 5th ranked matchup. He is a very good matchup. DJ Moore against the Lions secondary. So DJ Moore is a locked and loaded, ready to go top 10 type of guy this week.
Yep.
Fields, like I said, he's got top 5 upside, but I mean, just the matter of DJ Moore has been one of the better receivers this year anyways. He had 114 yards against the Vikings. I think he went over 1,000. So just a lot to surprisingly like from the Chicago side in this game. Outside of that, Jameson Williams. No, you're not worried about Jameson Williams or any of these other guys, really. Yeah, I believe as far as the key fantasy players, yeah, that's about it for me. I think the Lions, though, I think they're just too good. They'll come in and win. They're very good on the road, so I think they'll come in and get it done. But that bodes well for the Bears because they're going to be playing catch up. Justin Fields probably going to be running a lot. So, but yeah, if you're betting, pick Detroit.
Yeah, and it's because Detroit has been playing a little bit worse these past couple of weeks, and because Chicago has started to play a little bit better, you see that in the spread. If you would have told me that the Detroit line going into the game against Chicago was -3, if you would have told me that like 3-4 weeks ago, I would have laughed at you probably.
Exactly. Yep.
But I think what's interesting to me is when it comes to both Detroit and Chicago, you're kind of seeing them revert back to what they were last year.
Mm-hmm.
Detroit was very much like the Big 12 type of team, right? Comparison wise, a lot of offense, defense is really starting to falter. Like the first half of last year, Detroit had the worst defense in the entire NFL. Mm-hmm. And that was for fantasy stats. That was for real NFL stats. That was everything. Just the worst.
Yep.
But they were putting up 30 points a game. And now you're starting to see that happen again. And then in Chicago's case, the start of this year, they were really trying to make Justin Fields something he's not, which is a drop back and pass the ball 30 plus times.
Yep.
And now, over the past 3 weeks, you've seen him run a lot more, pass the ball a little bit less. And, it came out with a win against Minnesota. But even in the losses, they're closer games.
Yeah.
And they're scoring more points. And the offense is just moving. And it's, again, indicative to don't try to force your players to conform to your offensive scheme.
Yep.
Mold your scheme around your offensive players.
Exactly.
And I think Chicago is finally starting to catch on to that. And they're doing that. With that being said, fantasy-wise, you're starting all the real pieces, right? Jared Goff, Justin Fields, yes. In my opinion, both top 12 quarterbacks this week, probably top 10.
Yep.
I'm just going to be conservative with my generalizations because I don't have my rankings up in front of me.
No, for sure.
So,
if you need me to pull any of your rankings up, let me know.
Okay, no worries. But as much as you and I both hate David Montgomery, probably starting David Montgomery too. Yeah, starting Jahmyr Gibbs, that's a home run. Amon-Ra St. Brown, that's a no question. I'm starting him even in the worst matchups.
Yep.
Sam Laporta is just amazing rookie season for Sam Laporta. Could you imagine what Kyle Pitts would be in this Detroit offense?
Dude, that's why I still am so bullish on Kyle Pitts in Dynasty is because
the talent.
He's 23 and the situation can always change.
Yeah, exactly. It can always change. He can get fed up at any point, and his rookie contract's done. He can go wherever he wants.
Yep.
Or
Mark
he can demand a trade.
Mark Andrews, Kelsey, and all them, they were late bloomers. So
they were late bloomers for sure. Absolutely.
Man, just saying.
But all those guys, you're starting. DJ Moore, same thing. And then that's really about it.
Yep.
Like Jameson Williams, you said, like Jameson Williams is a very desperation gimmicky type player. Like they'll put the ball in his hands only on specific plays that call for Jameson Williams.
Yeah.
Most of the time when it works, those are touchdowns.
Right.
But
they're very
right.
infrequent.
But you don't want to put that into your lineup and just have to rely on that.
Yeah. He has 13 catches, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns in the season, average of 19. So, like you were saying, schematically, they like to kind of drum up the deeper pass for him,
or like those like trick play end arounds, like type things. Like I think was it Jameson Williams that took one to the end zone last week like that?
I think it was.
He did like a little swan dive into the end zone.
I think I looked at his last touchdown was a couple weeks ago, and I was looking at his numbers earlier.
I must be thinking about someone else then.
Yeah.
But yeah. So start the guys that you know.
Yep.
Don't start the guys you don't.
Yep.
This one, It's pretty simple, but we should have a good fantasy day out of this matchup for sure.
For sure. And going back to your Justin Fields point, I mean, we talked about it a lot last year, talking about schematically. Well, last year it was like they would draw up a scheme. Justin Fields would play his own game plan. It was backyard football for Justin Fields last year. And it's finally, they finally got the brain power to say, oh, well, maybe since we have him on film doing this is what works for him. Let's devise a game plan off of that. And it's finally working out for him. So, all right. Well, that segues us into the battle of the backup QBs, Bengals, Colts. All right.
Oh,
go ahead and I'll let you get started on this one. What are your thoughts? We got the Browning versus Minshew. This might turn out to be one of the better games of the week. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm gonna say kudos to Zach Taylor and for scheming last week.
Yep.
Knew Jake Browning was his quarterback, knew what was going to happen, proceeded to go and give Jamar Chase 12 targets, 11 catches. Like even without that 76-yard touchdown, Jamar Chase was still very much involved. It wasn't like that was one play that just kind of like put him in relevance for the day. I would look for them to do a lot of the same here. Both Indianapolis and Cincinnati's pass defenses, Swiss cheese. They just are not good.
Yep.
And so you alluded to this might be one of the better games of the week.
Yep.
I agree. I think this is one of the better games for fantasy specifically. Because both Indianapolis and Cincinnati, I believe both teams rank in the bottom third of the NFL in yards allowed and points allowed and stuff like that. So,
which is not good.
Right. You can probably give me Indianapolis plus 2.5 on this one. Actually, I trust Minshew's experience and consistency more than Jake Browning coming into his second NFL start.
Yeah.
I understand Cincinnati's at home. I understand they just came off of the big win against a very, tough opponent in primetime. But I'm going to roll with Indianapolis where Zach Moss is proving himself to be a very capable running back, which is something that Buffalo kind of swung and missed on. And Gardner Minshew, cementing his claim as one of the better backups in the NFL. Michael Pittman is doing his thing, just like Jamar Chase is doing his thing on the other side. So, T. Higgins, I feel like, you waited this long for him, right?
Yep.
To come off your bench.
Hope you're not. Yeah. Good luck. Good luck if you're an owner of him, man.
In my eyes, the matchup wise, if you are not playing T. Higgins this week, you are not going to be playing him the rest of the season. This is one of those matchups that you would play him because the matchup is so good. So, plus he finally got an entire 4 quarters in last week. And he didn't go out with another injury, so that's good.
That's always a plus,
right? But Joe Mixon, I as much as you and I both feel about Joe Mixon, I could see Joe Mixon having a good day against this Indy defense.
I agree.
Zach Moss, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs is going to be he's very volatile.
Yep.
Some days he gets 10 targets and he gets a very nice day. Other weeks, Alec Pierce comes in and steals all of his work. You never know what you're getting with him. That's kind of a risky play. Matchup wise, on paper, it looks good. But that's I'm looking forward to this matchup for sure.
Yep. It's going to be a wildly entertaining yet potentially ugly game. It's going to get muddied up Minshew style. So,
yep.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think I'm going to take the Bengals to pull this off. The game total for this one was, I believe, down by 40, and then after the Browning game, it went up to 43. So, I mean, just that performance right there from him alone shifted the over-under up, 3 points, which is crazy. But it was very good. Like, I looked at this article on PFF they wrote, and he led in the efficiency category, and he led in the quick pass category, and he was like the most efficient in both categories. And they have 4 categories on there. He was tops in 2 of them, which is crazy to see. But he's been part of that organization for a while, and I think that's helped him. Being around Burrow a lot, being in the scheme a lot. I think that really helped him get intertwined in that offense. The thing that remains to be seen is just how, was that an outlier? Yeah, I mean, he's probably good, but he's not going to be that good, right? So, like,
right.
what is the Browning that we're going to get consistently the rest of the way? And I think that's the biggest question mark and the hardest part about predicting things fantasy wise for this game. Like you said, though, Mixon, he's going to be relied upon. He's going to be a huge part of this game plan. Top 10 running back there. Jamar Chase, you're always starting Jamar Chase up. I mean, let's be honest. They are, short week this week, so we'll see how he does kind of with that. Colts defense, not very good against the run. Decent, but decent pass rush. I think with Zach Moss, I can't remember what his over-under was for yards for this week, but big game anticipated for Zach Moss. And then I think Minshew is going to kind of be Minshew to me. He's in my queue. I have him as QB 14 this week. I was having a really hard time kind of basing what I thought Minshew was going to do this week against a much maligned Cincinnati pass defense. But the things Minshew does, like he's not a very sexy fantasy option. He doesn't really get you excited. He's a more fun player to root for in real life and a player, to watch in real life. But he doesn't really get up for, like, he doesn't really do much for you fantasy wise typically, but he's still consistently putting points up. And then, Pittman's got to be, top 8 guy this week. Pittman's his guy. That's who he's going to go to. We've seen that time and time again. But yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be, fairly, I think it's going to hit the under. I think it's just going to be an ugly, muddy game. I think everybody's going to do their part. I expect every one of these players to be at least a decent start. Minshew, Browning, all of them. But I think that the top guys, of course, are going to be your Michael Pittmans, your Jamar Chases, those two. But outside of that, if you need a quarterback, if you're streaming quarterbacks, Minshew, Browning. I have Minshew 2 spots ahead of Browning, so take that for what you will. Anything else on this game though?
No, I mean, you started bringing up a good point with like Minshew, like not a sexy pick or to start this week. And I think what I usually like to do in like justifying, right? Like, I start to play the game of like, okay, well, would you rather start, Minshew or, someone else. And then I start running through all the names, right?
Yep.
I'm starting Minshew over I'm starting him over Jake Browning this week. You mentioned the Indy pass rush, and Cincinnati's O-line is not good.
Yep.
So there is that. I'm starting him over Derek Carr. I'm starting Minshew over Geno Smith against Seattle or against San Francisco this week.
Yep.
I'm starting him over. Let's see. I'm trying to think of all those other like middle of the pack. Baker Mayfield. I'm starting him over Baker Mayfield this week.
Yep.
Yeah. So like, I'm starting him over Will Levis. Yes. I'm starting him over Bryce Young. Yes. I said middle of the pack, not bottom of the NFL.
He had a good week.
Yeah. Yeah.
1 week.
But yeah, so there's a bunch of those middle of the pack type of dudes. And the only reason you would even be looking there is if your quarterback is on a bye week. So like, if you have been religiously starting Sam Howell, he's on a bye week this week, that might be a option.
Yep.
Let's see who else here. Is Washington the only team on a bye week this week?
I think no, Arizona, right? Arizona had a week 14 bye, I believe.
Okay, sure. So if you picked up Kyler Murray and you're looking for a replacement, same thing. So, but let's get into this question.
Alrighty, so pick one for my flex. Who do I start? Devontae Smith, Jerome Ford, Devin Singletary, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley. Right up the top, Devontae Smith. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, because D-Hop has not been consistent enough for me this year. I know Tennessee's going to score a lot of points, but just Devontae Smith is a very much more relied upon part of that offense and a very better offense. They have the best offense of these four. Jacksonville has question marks with T-Law, and they're playing the Browns. So, that's going to be a tough matchup. Yeah, Devontae Smith I like better than the other two for sure.
Devontae Smith has been on an absolute tear this year.
100%.
Or most recently this past 4 or 5 weeks.
In recent weeks for sure, yeah.
And now you got this big matchup with Dallas versus Philly. You're going to have a lot of attention thrown A.J. Brown's way.
Yep.
And I think that's going to free up a lot of Devontae Smith.
Well, not only, and just looking at the over-unders, the over-under for that game is 51.5, and the implied team total is 24.2. Implied team total for Jacksonville is 17 and 16 for Tennessee. So, yeah, you feel a lot better about that. Appreciate the question, boss man. Thanks for hopping in here. Appreciate it. And if y'all got any more questions, feel free to drop them in here as we go along. We will answer them for y'all. So, okay, I think we covered about everything on the Indy Cincinnati game. So let's get over into Jacksonville at Cleveland. Speak of the devil.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. The very interesting game here. So T-Law.
Is he playing?
Did T-Law fake his injury? Let me check. Did T-Law fake his ankle injury, or is he just a?
Even if Trevor Lawrence is playing, right, and we're about to get confirmation on whether he is or isn't, unless he's a game time decision, which is in 50 minutes, then I don't know, man. I might still even start Gardner Minshew over Trevor Lawrence this week.
Yeah, I don't know how much I like. Yeah, it says
this Cleveland defense is nasty.
Yeah, he says expected to start. All right. I don't. Yeah, no ankle sprains, bro. First off, I think he's an idiot for playing, and I think they're dumb for playing him.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's not going to take much to re-aggravate that thing, but it seemed like he was faking it. I don't know. Not faking. All right, but just
milking it.
The over exaggeration. If your ankle is that messed up, you're not playing the next week. I'm sorry, dude. When I did that to my ankle, it was 3 times the size of its normal size a week later, and I could barely put any weight on it. No.
Yeah.
It's just that irks me to no end how he acted like such a baby. But I digress.
He either obtained superpowers with regenerative abilities, or he was milking it. To me, he was milking it.
He was milking it. Absolutely.
Fucking Trevor 2% Lawrence.
So I mean, just look at the guy. You could have just probably guessed he's soft. Look at his hair, dude.
I mean,
he doesn't have any facial hair. He doesn't have a beard.
I'm not gonna throw a lot of shade towards Sunshine. I'm a fan of him.
Well, I wasn't until that bullshit. Like,
I hear you.
Give me a break. All right. Anyways, though, were you? I kind of cut you off. What were you talking about besides that? Just anything else in the game that you were? I wasn't sure if you were going into a point.
I would look it up, but the minute I swipe away from my phone, my camera and mic's going to cut out.
Gotcha.
I believe that this game is going to be playing in pretty inclement weather today in Cleveland, which we talked about during the preseason shows. Actually, we talked about those AFC North games. Once you hit December, look out, because the passing numbers are going to start to go down, because there's a lot of different weather factors that come into play in the winter.
Yep.
Windy, rainy, snow, all that stuff.
It did give an update. Rain is not expected, but possible.
Okay. I still think that this is going to be a more run-centered game.
Over-under's 37.5.
Right. And anytime for me, there's an over-under below 40 in the NFL, you're not going to have a lot of passing. I don't know if Flacco or DTR is starting for Cleveland today.
I believe it'll be Flacco.
Okay. But even then, I mean, the only two I would really feel comfortable with rolling out, and this, I mean, ETN, obviously, but even then, temper your expectations for him this week going up against Cleveland. And then Jerome Ford, which, I mean, he's been a fine, supplemental piece if, you went and got him after Nick Chubb went down. But don't expect him to be a top of the line RB1.
Exactly.
So this game's going to be kind of messy. I think this has potential to be a very good, real NFL game, but not necessarily for fantasy.
Yep, I'd have to agree. What are we going to get out of Flacco is the $1 million question.
Christian Kirk out too. So
Christian Kirk, 6 to 8 weeks?
He's on IR.
Yeah, so I think they said though the total is 6 to 8 weeks. I think.
Mm-hmm.
So big blow to them.
Huge.
That's good because Calvin Ridley, over the course of the season, has been like their tried and true. Like, we're going to target him repeatedly. He has been their consistent target hog this season. Most people thought it'd be Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley did get started. He got it going a little later in the season, but Calvin Ridley has been that guy for them this year. Christian Kirk. So, it remains to be seen what they're going to look like. I mean, with a banged up Lawrence, with a, Christian Kirk not in, do they just go heavy ETN? Is Ridley able to be leaned upon more? Who steps up, as that next option? Evan Ingram, of course, but the Jaguars have been inconsistent this year, for lack of better words. They've been playing, offensively good lately. Trevor Lawrence having a great season, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. If Beathard comes in, nix everything we're saying about starting these receivers, because I don't think you're in good hands with CJ Beathard.
Right.
Dearness Johnson started to maybe take a little bit. He moved into that second role behind Tank Dell, or ahead of Tank Bigsby. He seemed to have overtaken that role. So, but it's just that he's not getting any kind of usage to where you can play him or anything like that.
Right.
Browns looking at what, 3 straight, two losses in a row, looking at potentially their 3rd straight. Elijah Moore, I think he's a sneaky start this week, though. I don't know your take on Elijah, but I think he's a sneaky start. I think he's going to step up and he's going to be needed because Cooper, was questionable this week. I think he might play. Even still, though, I think Elijah Moore is a fairly good start this week in a deeper league, or if you got to find somebody to fix your flex spot. Yeah, defense for the Browns has been solid most of the season. Last couple weeks seemed to be a little bit of a, they allowed 29 to the Broncos, I think, and like 400 yards to the Rams. So, but that's an outlier. You'll take the consistency that we've gotten from them. They hold their top 10 in scoring defense, even with those issues. So we'll see. This one's super hard to project because of Trevor Lawrence's health. But I actually think the Browns get this one done.
I do too.
Yep.
I do too. I actually like that you brought up Elijah Moore. Joe Flacco, if Joe Flacco is starting, then Elijah Moore is definitely going to benefit. Joe Flacco, he doesn't care about the big names on offense. He doesn't care. He's simply if you're open, I'm going to fucking throw it to you.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about Joe Flacco. He does not care. He is a modern day Jay Cutler. And so, and Elijah Moore benefited greatly from it last week.
Yep.
So, yeah.
All right, we got a question here. So, pick one: Calvin Ridley, Courtland Sutton, Adam Thielen, Dameon Pierce.
Okay. Well, he gave us an easy one last time, so this one's a little bit tougher.
I think I'm leaning Sutton, just because Thielen's matchup.
Who are the Panthers playing?
So they're playing New Orleans. And New Orleans has like a top 5 defense to opposing fantasy wide receivers. And Courtland Sutton and Denver's got the Chargers. So I have Russell Wilson as my QB 10 of this week. I expect the Denver offense. Courtland Sutton was my start of the week last week. So for me, this one's easy for me. I'm going Sutton.
I'm fine with rolling Sutton.
Just because we just talked about the Jacksonville game.
We just talked about Calvin Ridley and even if Trevor Lawrence does start, that's all fine and good. But the minute that Trevor Lawrence takes one more, questionable, kind of hit, not questionable in terms of nasty or dirty, but just
anything
significant. Right. Calvin Ridley's entire day could just plummet.
Yep.
And Adam Thielen, as hot as a start he had to the season, has come crashing back down to earth over the past 4 or 5 weeks, ever since their bye week, really. He's just come crashing back down. Dameon Pierce looks like, you can confirm or deny this, but it seems like Devin Singletary has taken over as the running back or at least messed up the workload enough to make Dameon Pierce not a really relevant fantasy piece anymore.
He's just more of an all-around guy. I think Devin Singletary fits what this offense does better because we are a drop back CJ Stroud sitting in the pocket type of offense. So we need that running back that can go out and catch passes, and he can go out on routes. And Dameon Pierce was never that guy. He wasn't that guy in college at Florida. They tried to implement him in the pass game, but if you remember last year, it was Rex Burkhead. That was
sexy Rexy.
30-year-old sexy Rex Burkhead was coming in and filled that role. So, I just think Singletary fits better. And then, he had the 200-yard games, which were, the first one of those was the first 100-yard games the Texans had in 17 consecutive weeks. So,
I'm going Courtland Sutton here.
And then even if Trevor Lawrence stayed healthy, just like we talked about, the over-under is 37.5. It's going to be 30 some odd degrees, 15-mile-an-hour wind. and Cleveland is second in terms of points to opposing fantasy wide receivers, and they don't have to focus on Christian Kirk now. So all of their attention is going to be on Calvin Ridley.
Yep.
So,
do you think, maybe not this week, but for the course of the playoffs, do you think that what's the fucking third receiver's name in Jacksonville? Zay Jones. I wanted to say Thomas Jones. I was like, no, that's the running back. Like,
Thomas.
He's in Denver now, Thomas Jones Jr. But yeah, do you think that Zay Jones, maybe not this week, but once they get back to like Jacksonville and stuff, he becomes more of a play?
Yeah, I do. I think he'd be a good wide receiver 3 flex range type of guy. It just remains to be seen if he can be that wide receiver 2 and still, like, is he better as a wide receiver 3, or can he step into that wide receiver 2 role and still produce? So we'll see, because it's a lot easier when you have Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley taking guys off of you. So
for sure.
Yeah, and Evan Ingram. Well, I mentioned his name just quickly, but yeah, Evan Ingram's. I mean, he put up over 20 points last week, big time. I would still start Evan Ingram regardless, because even if Jacksonville has to go with CJ Beathard, yeah, he's top 10.
They're going to have to pass the ball at some point, and that's going to include Travis Etienne out of the backfield and Evan Ingram in the flats and those checkdowns. So, yeah, I'm good with. I think Etienne and Ingram are the ones that I'm the most comfortable with. On the Jacksonville side, and I mean, really, the most in this game that I'm the most comfortable with altogether.
Right. All right. Cool. So appreciate the question again, boss man. Derek, Ferguson or Hawkinson? I probably going to go, dude. So the thing about Hawkinson is what kind of target share does he get with Justin Jefferson back and Dobbs in there? And it's because I have both of them. I have Hawkinson as my tight end 3. I have Ferguson as my tight end 5. But that's the only thing that throws me off there with Hawkinson is like, what is it going to look like with Justin Jefferson in there now? Is Dobbs going to be like locking the key in on Justin Jefferson now?
Right.
I still think I'd have to go Hawkinson. Personally, as much as I like Jake Ferguson.
Yeah, this is a as great as Jake Ferguson has been this year, I wouldn't fully put him in the like stud category.
Yeah.
And I would definitely put TJ Hawkinson in the stud category.
Yeah.
And so reverting back to the cardinal rule of fantasy football, always start your studs.
Yep.
And so again, it's not a knock against Jake Ferguson.
It's just Hawk's done this over multiple seasons, and
Hawk's done it over multiple seasons with multiple teams, multiple quarterbacks, all of it.
And he's like the consensus, like tight end 3. Like you have your Kelsey, you have your Andrews. Like I'm talking about when they're all healthy and all that.
Right.
And then Hawkinson typically falls into that 3 slot. So,
all
right. Next question. Appreciate the question, Derek. Michael Hewitt. Appreciate the question, Michael. Kyron Williams, David Montgomery, or Derrick Henry. I start.
Who the Rams have this week?
So the Rams have Baltimore, Chicago. Detroit has Chicago. Tennessee has Miami. I mean, me personally, though, I still kind of like Kyron Williams.
That's what I'm thinking too.
It's very close between him and Montgomery, but
Baltimore is not playing at the dominance level that they were earlier in the year.
Exactly.
And the Rams, now that they have everyone fully healthy, Kyron Williams is back. You got Puka, you got Kupp, you got Stafford back. I would be okay with Kyron Williams. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that they get on the goal line at some point and Kyron Williams gets in there with the touchdown. And then he's also set for 3 to 5 catches. He's also set for 15 plus touches. Yeah, I like the volume play because David Montgomery, like, you don't know, are they like, is as much as we hate to see David Montgomery vulture touches off of Gibbs, we've seen it the other way around as well.
Yep.
Dan Campbell is literally just he's a maniac that does what he wants, and I love him and hate him for it at the same time.
Yep.
And then Derrick Henry he left last week, and so I know concussions aren't really like a week to week, kind of like residual injury.
Yep.
But I mean, you don't know. Derrick Henry, I just haven't been impressed a lot with him this year. So
me neither.
I think I'm rolling Kyren Williams on this.
Yeah. I have to agree. Yeah, and it's very close, like I said, but you have a RB2 / committee versus an RB1, and then Kyren Williams, his usage has been, when he's there, his usage is crazy. So David Montgomery, you're still a little bit dependent on the touchdowns because before the touchdown last week, he wasn't having a very good game overall. So all right, so cool. So that answers the questions. Again, appreciate the questions, fellas. That brings us over. What's up?
Oh, so you want to get into Gigi's?
Oh yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I don't have it up on my screen, but y'all can see it there in the right-hand corner. The official seasoning of CheesyCorn Sports, GG seasoning. It was created and formulated by a friend of the show, Matt Berger. His wife has spent years creating this seasoning. She is from Senegal. Their shop is Senegal and Beyond, and she created this multi-purpose seasoning, do it all kind of thing. So he's a big supporter of the channel. Love to support him as well. So use code CheesyCorn on ggseasoning.com. There it is for you. Use code CheesyCorn at checkout for 10% off, and really appreciate it. All right, and we'll go ahead and I can go ahead and just briefly put out my Nebraska Voice College football stuff, and then you can put out your 4th and 1. So I second channel, I do Nebraska football at the Voice College Football. I cover Nebraska football. So if you are a fan of Nebraska football, slide on over there. Go ahead and subscribe. Check that out, and then Chaney can go away with his 4th and 1 series real quick.
1 second. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah. So second channel I have going on as well, Chain Gang Games. Huge fan of the NCAA football series, video games. And so wanted to put together a nice little simulation series for everyone. 8 completely fictional college football teams, all put in the same conference. They battle it out, sim versus sim. Computer plays the computer. I just provide some pretty entertaining play-by-play and color commentating. So if you guys want to check that out over there on YouTube, and of course on all socials at Chain Gang Games.
All right, we got exactly 30 minutes until kick. So, and we got a few games to get through. So I'll say let's just kind of go over. We'll touch on the games we don't necessarily love, in brief detail, and then we can key in on some other ones. So Carolina, New Orleans, this is one of the ones that we quite frankly don't care about, but I do like Miles Sanders as a flex start this week.
Sure.
Also, Taysom Hill, good luck. It's very likely he can either have anywhere between 2 points and 22 points. So depending on how the game script goes, if Carr gets hurt or anything like that.
He's hurt too.
Huh?
Taysom Hill's hurt as well.
Yeah, but he's playing though, right? I think
so. I think I just saw it listed as questionable.
But anything fun or exciting from this game that you care about?
Talk to me if and when Jameis Winston steps in at quarterback this week. That's when the fun stuff happens. You know what I mean? And not necessarily inherently good stuff, but
Keep the dub, Chaney.
He's going to start slinging it because that's just what Jameis Winston does, and I love it. Jameis Winston is the most fantasy friendly quarterback supplier, not necessarily play him as a, fantasy piece, but all the pieces around him.
Yep.
And he has bailed me out as a Chris Olave manager a couple times this year, which I absolutely love.
Yep.
And so it's, I think Alvin Kamara is going to be just insane this week. I have him at, I think, as my RB2 on the week. And yeah, there's not a lot really to talk about on this game.
No.
I think New Orleans does cover the 5.5 point spread. Carolina they just don't have it this year. And that's not even me trying to talk shit to, Chris, the Panther fan, and stuff like that. That's just, it's just objectively factual. They just don't have it this year.
It's honesty. Okay.
Yeah.
Honesty is the best policy, Chaney. Okay.
Always.
All right. Let's go ahead and move to I like this game personally. Ooh. Houston at the Jets, baby. Dare I say, we should win this game.
We
should. But every time I pick the Texans as my lock of the week, we lose. So not picking any locks, nothing like that. Just saying. Tough matchup a little bit for Houston offense. Nico Collins, not a great matchup. I think his grade against the secondary of the Jets was at a 47. Not good. So
sure,
going to be a tough matchup. However, CJ Stroud is that dude, and Nico is his guy. So, Stroud's my QB 8 of the week. He has proven to be semi-matchup proof. His bad games have been against bad teams. So kind of weird how that works. But, I expect much of the same from Stroud. Maybe just a little decrease. He's using his legs a lot more. And that's the biggest thing for me that's bumping CJ Stroud up is he's starting to use his leg more, and he's using it. He's reacting, instinctively using it. It doesn't have to be designed. He's actually scrambling, using his legs. That's what made him good in that Georgia-Ohio State game. That's why that was his best game as, in college, because he used his legs so much in that game. And so he's pass first, but when he uses legs, that offense becomes very dangerous. So CJ Stroud's still in my top 10. Nico in my top 10. You have Noah Brown as your sneaky flex, as we mentioned before. And then, keep an eye, if you have a spot to stash somebody and your waivers are still open, go stash John Mechie, throw him on there and just see, because John Mechie, again, second round pick 2 years ago, missed last year because he had cancer. And he got some targets last week. He started getting targeted a little bit more. So Jets side, Breece Hall starting up. Outside of that, sure, whatever. Tyler Conklin has been a semi, consistent volume guy for them.
Yep.
So if you're in a desperation need of starting a tight end, Tyler Conklin's there. So, but what say you on this one?
Well, first, I would just like to say that I have had the absolute best career of benefiting from Houston receivers on a moment's notice. And this goes all the way back. Oh, real quick, say hello to Bryce Young, everyone.
Or he asked where he was.
Yes, absolutely. That picture never gets old.
I got to take him off. Hold on. I got to get back to it. Okay, there we go.
It never gets old. But
Derek said Taysom Hill's out. Okay, so
yeah, I saw that. I was going to bring that up. So yeah,
go ahead.
Juwan Johnson hopefully plays, I guess, for you.
Yep.
But Houston receivers, and this started all the way back in 2018 when I picked up a fun-loving PED user by the name of Will Fuller, and that week picked him up off of the waiver wire. That week he goes off for 5 receiving touchdowns.
Yep.
That the highlight of my year, and still in the top 10 all-time best waiver wire pickups of my life.
Yep.
and then proceeded to trade him like immediately after. And he didn't do shit the rest of the year, so I was happy.
Awesome. It's that one time that trade worked out.
Right.
I remember back in 2007.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's how you know it's memorable, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But then it went to Brandon Cooks. And Brandon Cooks with Houston was seemingly quarterback proof.
Yeah.
Because it was going through a carousel.
Yep.
And he would still get anywhere from 12 to 18 points each week.
Yep.
And I rode that wave for 2 years where it worked. And then the year I didn't, he moved on. Yep. And it was, I love Brandon Cooks for that. Brandon Cooks is actually a very nice play this week as well, but we'll get into that when we get to the Dallas game.
Yep.
And then it turned into Nico Collins, who's my wide receiver 10 this week. However, Nico Collins is no longer really like a waiver wire pickup like he was last year.
Right. Yeah.
Nico Collins is the week. But a few weeks ago, Noah Brown was my wide receiver start of the week. Blew the fuck up. He got hurt, but Tank Dell, RIP, now out for the rest of the year.
RIP Tank.
Yep, RIP Tank. We'll pour one out for you. Noah Brown's coming back, man. I fully believe in Noah Brown this week. You're going to have Nico covered with shadowed by Sauce Gardner. I'm fully ready to get text messages from Justin later talking about how much Sauce Gardner holds and how handsy he is and how much they don't call. I'm prepared for it because that's what Sauce Gardner does. Sauce Gardner is a very handsy corner, and he doesn't get called for a lot of penalties for it. But
not on my watch.
I think Noah Brown is going to have a very nice day. CJ Stroud, of course, still going to have a very nice day. Breece Hall was a little banged up this week on the Jets side. He's going to play. I don't think it's going to impact his efficiency. Mm-hmm. However, I would not be surprised if they reduced his touches a little bit.
Yep.
Nothing too significant, but it's more of a temper your expectations with Breece Hall. I don't know who the Jets are starting at quarterback this week. Are they back to Zach Wilson?
I don't know. What was I seeing about Zach Wilson being traded and stuff like that? But
I was seeing stuff about Zach Wilson reluctant to take back the starting job. I
believe it's Zach Wilson. Yeah.
Zach Wilson would not be having this narrative about him had they not drafted him second overall.
Correct.
And I mean, it's the same thing with like Trey Lance, right? To me, you're supposed to draft the most NFL ready guy. Yep. You don't draft a project top 3.
Yep.
You don't. Which was another reason why I thought CJ Stroud was the undisputed, best quarterback, best quarterback, real NFL draft. We talked about that in the offseason. I was saying, at the time,
you had Bryce Young one.
I had Bryce.
I had Stroud one.
For fantasy purposes, yes. That was before he went to the Carolina fucking Panthers. But in those discussions, I said that CJ Stroud is definitely the best passer. In the draft class.
Without a doubt.
But yeah, I'll admit that, I might have been a little too bullish on Bryce Young as well.
It's okay.
CJ Stroud, amazing. I
was at a little advantage because I watched more CJ Stroud with him being in the Big Ten.
Sure.
So I'd seen it a lot. So
yeah. But I expect Houston to cover the -3. I expect them to win.
Yep.
Houston's they're playing a different level of ball that nobody, well, outside of you maybe, but nobody expected them to play this year.
Even me, man.
They're crashing through a lot of the glass ceilings and they just keep going up.
For sure. So. Yep. All right. Speaking of, let's get into this question. Derek, Noah Brown or Rashee Rice? I have Rashee Rice well ahead of Noah Brown. I have Rashee Rice ranked ahead of Nico this week.
Wow.
But just because Nico's matchup was bad, and
sure.
dude, I just had this feeling about Rashee Rice. I like his matchup a little bit. I think Rashee Rice is going to have a big week. So that's saying more about that's more of a matchup thing, and probably me trying a little too hard not to be biased.
No, it's fine. It's just surprising any day that you pick any Kansas City Chief over a Houston Texan. So
I will say though, I drafted Rashee Rice. I did trade him, but I drafted Rashee Rice, so I really liked him coming into the season.
No, and Rashee Rice is definitely it's pretty clear that Rashee Rice is the best receiver in that receiver room.
Yep.
His route running, his size, and then his yards after the catch ability, like all of it is there for him, and that's just something that the likes of Sky Moore apparently doesn't have. Kadarius Toney, we all kind of knew didn't have, except for the truthers out there for but.
Can't stay healthy, can't catch passes. Probably not a good wide receiver.
Rashee Rice, now that we're in the second half of the season, has climbed himself to the top of this target share.
Yeah.
For some reason, it seems to be in no particular order: Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, and Justin Watson. For some bizarre reason, I don't get it. But but now you're going to have Isaiah Pacheco out this week, so. If you were looking at my rankings, I had Pacheco in my top 10 this week. He's out. So, take that what you will. I guess Clyde Edwards-Helaire is supposed to be the RB1 this week.
I would probably feel more comfortable. He will not go away, dude.
Yeah.
He's like
I would probably feel more comfortable with Jerick McKinnon than CEH this week. If you had to start either of them.
Doesn't fall for Clyde Edwards-Helaire anything.
Yeah. But yeah, I would still put Rashee Rice over Noah Brown this week.
Got it. Yep. Thank you, gents. All the great advice. You're welcome, man. And don't forget to like and sub. Appreciate that, Derek. And if y'all do like what we're doing here, please do like and subscribe. It really helps us out with the YouTube algorithms. Okay. So we got about 17 minutes and a few games to get through. So one thing, I'll just pull it up here. I have my start of the week from this game, and it is Keaton Mitchell. I'm sorry, my sleeper of the week is Keaton Mitchell. So I don't know. His volumes have been upticking. He's been getting used in the receiving game more. I just think he's really starting to take that volume over in that backfield. I think he's the better player. So yeah, Keaton Mitchell. I think he's going to have a really good week this week. And
for sure,
dominate that backfield. So, all right. I guess we can get into Vikings or Raiders, so we can talk a little bit about Mr. Josh Dobbs.
Let's do it.
All right, Vikings at Raiders. Let's do it. My thoughts first. Josh Dobbs. I have him as my QB 12 this week. I think Josh Dobbs is top 10 upside, top 8 upside, even. Because, looking at what he's done over the course of the season, he's QB 14 on the season, and doing that with switching teams and having 0.98 points in week 1. He, had a rough game against Chicago, but like we said, Chicago unexpectedly playing good defense lately. The 4 games before that, though, he had a couple weeks of over 20 points, a couple weeks of 17, 18. So he's been doing it. He's been fairly consistent, and he's getting Justin Jefferson back this week. And that, to me, right there is all you need to know, because Josh Dobbs can run. So he has that element of the, what helps in fantasy more than anything is QB can run the ball. So he has that. He has a top tier pass catching option in Justin Jefferson. He's a top tier tight end, and TJ Hawkinson. Like, what's not to like about Josh Dobbs? And so,
I mean, apart from the fact that he plays for the Minnesota Vikings, not much.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have a little bit of a built-in hatred. I don't like the Vikings because they got so lucky last year. But anything of note you want to put out about Dobbs?
No. If you guys want more in-depth, kind of breakdown on Josh Dobbs, go check out our socials. There is a little Josh Dobbs appreciation post regarding his upside and his recent play. He gets Justin Jefferson back, as you said, so he still has He still has Jordan Addison, still has TJ Hawkinson, getting Justin Jefferson back. He still has his own legs. Like, I think that we haven't seen the best of Josh Dobbs yet.
As opposed to somebody else's legs?
Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want.
As long as it's not J.K. Dobbins' left leg.
I was going to say, I wouldn't want, J.K. Dobbins' Achilles or ACL. I wouldn't want Kirk Cousins' ACL right now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I wouldn't want it.
I'd be interested to. Well, yeah, no, that's 100% healthy though. So
it didn't even hurt. I don't need no cart, guys. It's like my gladiator moment.
Yeah,
dragging him off the field.
Yeah, I think the interesting one is would you want Aaron Rodgers' Achilles?
I would take that.
It seems like he does have superpowers after all.
If I can get some of his money, I'll take it.
If I get some of his fucking talent, I would.
Just don't give me his COVID toe. No COVID toe. All right. All right. So anything else on this game?
No.
Josh Jacobs, expect a big week. Start up Devontae. Yep. You know the drill. Broncos Chargers. Let's go ahead and get into this one. We got about 13 minutes left. So Broncos Chargers. I want to talk about this one. Philly at Dallas and Tennessee Miami. So all right,
we can rapid fire through it.
Let's go. This one, point of note, Russell Wilson, I anticipate will have a good game. He is in my top 10 for the first time this season. So, and again, Cortland Sutton. I like Cortland Sutton this week. I think this is going to turn into, the over-unders 44, I think, for this one. So fairly, average scoring game. Broncos have been feisty lately. They're hanging in games. They're battling. They've looked a lot better. They were on that 5-game win streak that was stopped last week, but took the Texans, intercepting them in the end zone to win that game too. So they're a tough team right now. The Chargers, inconsistent, bad defensively, but they can put up points. This game, I do expect them to put up points. I have Justin Herbert at 6, I believe. I think this is going to be a good fantasy game all around for both teams.
Okay. I'll make this brief. I think the Broncos cover the +3 road dogs. I think it's a close game because of the division, piece. I think, division matchups always, are a little bit better of games. I think the Broncos win this game. I think Cortland Sutton has a great day. I think Javonte Williams has a great day. Russell Wilson has a decent day. They've been kind of incorporating Adam Troutman into this offense a lot lately. I wouldn't say he's fantasy relevant as of yet, but
monitor.
Just kind of wait for the inevitable 20, 30-yard catch from Adam Troutman. Like it seems to pop up every now and then. Chargers wise, oh man, they've had a rough go of sledding the past 6 weeks. I left Herbert out of my top 10 because Denver's defense has been playing well. The second half of the season, they've been forcing a lot of turnovers, and things of that nature. I think I have Herbert at QB 11 or QB 12, something like that. Eckler has been massively underperforming. Keenan Allen seems to be the only one that is actually like consistently doing his thing. But again,
and he's in a plus matchup this week with his matchup versus the Denver corners.
Yep, absolutely. Pat Surtain, like the defense itself has been playing well, but Pat Surtain hasn't been, in my opinion, stepping up as that like superstar.
He has not, no.
So, you can still give me the Broncos +3, but it'll be a close one.
Yep. All right. Philly, Dallas, kind of the big game of the week here. I have Jalen Hurts at 2, Dak at 3.
Yep.
This is what that's supposed to be -3.5. My apologies. But This is what typically we kind of see as a defensive type of showdown is turning into not. So what's your takeaways on this game?
Man, I think this is going to be a slugfest.
Yep.
The last game against them was a slugfest, and I fully anticipate this one to be as well. Philly and Dallas, both of their defenses have kind of come back down to earth this season. Yeah. Dallas started super hot. Philly was riding off the coattails of last season, where they had an amazing defense. Kind of came back down to realism now.
Yep.
So I think this is going to be an offensive firepower of a game. You can expect Jalen Hurts to get at least 1, maybe 2 rushing touchdowns from half a yard out. And we talked about Devontae Smith. I think Devontae Smith's going to have a great game. I think Brandon Cooks is going to have a great game this week as well. A lot of that focus is going to be on A.J. Brown and CeeDee Lamb, and both of them are still going to have good games. Both of their talents are just out of this world.
Yep.
Tony Pollard has been a little mediocre this year.
Yeah, not what we anticipated. Nope, for sure.
And so I kind of want people to temper their expectations on Tony Pollard this week. DeAndre Swift has been a good piece for the Philly offense, but not necessarily. And I think he's in that RB2 territory for fantasy.
Good, not great.
Right. He's a solid RB2 play.
Yep.
I don't really see much upside as far as the ceiling goes for him this week, but I've been proven wrong before. So.
Yeah. Yep.
But Jake Ferguson, I absolutely love in this game. It looks like we're getting Dallas Goedert back this week too.
Yep.
So
he will be.
This is the matchup that you really want to see. This is the 2 of the best teams putting their absolute best people out there. So the winner of this game, there's no excuses for the loser. It's just going to be a matter. Phillies is hungry coming off that beatdown that they received against San Francisco, and they're out there ready to swing back. So,
yep,
I'm excited.
I am too. Yeah, Jalen Hurts, like you said, riding a little bit of the coattails from last year. I saw a stat where losing. I mean, this partially has to do, I would imagine, with losing Shane Steichen as well, but his numbers, completion percentage when in a clean pocket was at 73.7% versus when pressured was at 53.2%. And especially they said the Cowboys generated pressure on Hurts 43.8% of his dropbacks when they first played.
Yeah.
So that he has to be better. He just has to be better in that he cannot, he's usually calm, cool, collect in the pocket. Last year, he was really good under pressure. And for some reason this year just doesn't seem to have the same thing. I don't know if it's Shane Steichen thing. I don't know if it's, he was just playing above his level last year. That being said, too, last time, the Eagles, I think they had, I looked 109 yards on 30 something carries when I looked it up from their previous game. And Nick Sirianni said he wants to get the run game going. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of game script this takes over. There's another fun thing I was looking at. I was doing stuff for this game. It was there's a referee threads. I don't know if you've noticed or seen these, how they perform with a certain referee.
Oh, man. Welcome to the NBA, folks.
They're 7-0 against the spread with the head referee for this game. I don't remember his name. They're 7-0 against the spread with him, by the way. It's Auction. I think it's Action Labs was where I found that at.
That's funny.
So, but yeah, I mean, I expect a big, CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 2 this week. Dak, wide receiver 3. Pollard, even he's in my top 6 this week. So I think the Cowboys take this one, unfortunately. I think the Cowboys take this. And
I think so. They have the momentum. They're at home. Yeah. Dak's playing out of his mind these past 5 weeks.
What a game, though. Excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excited. All right. Anything else from you before we kind of move this on? We didn't get to touch on a couple of games. Sorry, we didn't get to the Green Bay game, Chaney.
All right.
We got about 4 minutes to the game starts. So we'll go ahead and start wrapping the show up here. Chaney, anything? First off, Chaney, I appreciate you doing this, popping on here from your phone. Chaney had computer issues, so appreciate you hopping on here and doing it from your phone. I know it's not easy to do it from your phone, so appreciate you hopping.
Yeah. It was you know what? This was a relatively good hour and a half, all things considered. But it's all right. Yeah, we'll hopefully get the stuff fixed before Friday's show, and and we'll just keep going. Appreciate everyone hopping in. Appreciate all your comments, and make sure you guys like and subscribe and follow us on all socials.
Yep. And Niner gang, it is game day. You're right. And it is about time for the games. So appreciate everybody who stopped in here, asked questions and everything like that. Thanks for everybody who supports us on a weekly basis. Really appreciate it. Y'all make it fun for us to come in here and hang out. Join us Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern for our Friday night light streams. We do a lot of fun stuff there. We play Immaculate Grid. We talk about some matchups. We'll hang out and chat with the comments. Y'all have fantasy questions, drop them in there. But it's a good time. So swing through there. And then, of course, we'll be right back here at the same time next Sunday. So hope everybody wins your week. Hope we helped you do that. And let's get on with these fantasy playoffs.
Let's do it.
All righty. Well, everyone enjoy your Sunday, enjoy the games, and we will catch you in the next